Hey guys, it's Chris White here with Fiercely Loving Fathers, and I'm going to talk to you today about rough and tumble play. So I'm going to take this time to articulate the reasons why rough and tumble play are so important for your child's development from their long arc from little babies all the way to fully functioning adults. So I'll get into the specifics of how it helps development. And I'm doing that so that you understand why it's important to do it, but also sometimes it's valuable to be able to articulate to our partners, maybe our more feminine partners who don't really get it as instinctively as we do, this notion of wrestling and roughhousing and why we should even consider doing it. Is it important? Is it valuable? So that's helpful. But first and foremost, wrestling is just fun. Right? When you wrestle with your kids, when you roughhouse around, to me, it's like one of the best times of the day for me. You know, your bodies are coming together, you're pushing against each other, you got all of those good cuddly hormones going, you're getting to exert yourself, energetically to push against something, to be pushed against. You're dancing, basically. You're kind of in harmony with another being and feeling them out and counter pushing and dancing and the whole thing. And there's, all those giggles, the laughter, that comes with that. And, it just sends such a cocktail of endorphins and good feelings through the body. So for that reason alone, rough and tumble play is important. And of course, there's a reason why it feels so good to us, right? Because it's nourishment. And throughout history, throughout evolutionary history, the things that the human organism needs are kind of programmed into the body and into the brain. And we seek out those things. And when we get that nourishment, we feel pleasure. It's kind of the signal for we're on track, right? So it all kind of goes together. But here are some reasons why rough and tumble play are so important for your child's development, particularly your sons. This is true for both boys and girls, but it's particularly true for boys. Number one, it helps them find their body in space. When our kids were babies, when they were really little, you could kind of see that they hadn't quite landed in their body yet. There's some consciousness there, there's some aliveness, but this consciousness hasn't really plugged into the body yet. It hasn't gotten good control over the limbs and its body in space. And it takes a long time, It takes probably that first 6 or 7 years to do a decent job of really landing and inhabiting the body. So it's a long process. And when you rough and tumble play, the kids can really help begin to find their body in space. They feel themselves more. They feel the kinesthetic sense, the proprioceptive sense of where their body is in space. They come up against you. They know their body boundaries. They know your body boundaries. So they learn a whole lot about their bodies, about other bodies in physical space, and come to inhabit those bodies even better because of rough and tumble play. The second thing that happens is they develop emotional regulation. So if you think about wrestling, there's all this intense emotion going. Yeah, it's fun, and there's squealing and shrieking and laughing and things like that. But it's also a little intense, right? All that excitement running through the nervous system is a level of intensity in the nervous system. And with rough and tumble play, they get to practice balancing this intensity, feeling it, letting it flow through their body, and also not letting it spill over into total chaos, And of course, there always are moments of chaos and rough and tumble play and, meltdowns and, all kinds of other things. But again, it helps them develop the skill of emotional regulation. A lot of times in rough and tumble play, they're right up against the edge of their fear. They're being pinned down, or they're flying through the air, or, who knows what. And they're dealing with fear. And they get to relate to that fear and learn how to regulate that fear. They're dealing with aggression, assertive energy, and learning not only how to push and try to use their body to kind of win in the wrestling and gain advantage, but also to not go too far where they hurt somebody, into biting and kicking and scratching and, going overboard. And so a lot of times you'll see kids who don't do a lot of rough and tumble play, they don't quite know the boundaries very well. They do things to really hurt other people. And you can kind of tell that they haven't been wrestling very much in their life. Also, you're working with frustration, trying to win, trying to gain advantage, and you can't quite do it, and you're getting frustrated. Again, you're developing those skills of emotional regulation, continuing on, pushing hard, gathering together your resources, despite being frustrated in the moment. So emotional regulation is one of the other skills that's developed over time with rough and tumble play. And lastly, a kind of broader umbrella for all of this is the development of self-discipline. Now, in a lot of circles, the word discipline kind of has negative connotations. They kind of think of the old school authoritarian discipline where there's harshness and control and shutdown of emotion and shutdown of aliveness. And, it's a very kind of situation. But that's not the healthy form of discipline. If you think of the healthiest form of discipline, it's the ability to take all of the chaos that's in our bodies and in our emotions and in the world and bring them together into harmony, to integrate all of the differentiated things in the world together in purpose of a long-term goal, right? So for example, if you think about any kind of project like sitting down to, write a paper or write a book, there's lots of times that emotions like boredom come up, or frustration, or different kinds of feelings that would derail you from it. But if you're self-disciplined, you can kind of shut those off for a minute, put them aside, maybe feel into them briefly and integrate them, but to carry on with your project and fulfill your long-term goal that's going to be good for you, your life, and perhaps the world at some point. Same thing with relationship. If you just automatically spill out all your frustration or aggression into the environment and all your hatred or whatever you're feeling, and you discharge all your emotion onto your friends and your partners and things like that, well, that's not really serving the relationship, right? You need to find constructive ways to work with your emotion and share your emotion and relate in the dance between me and we. So self-discipline is really important across the board for relationships, for maintaining a job. People, won't hire you or at least keep you on staff if you aren't self-disciplined, and also towards us giving our gifts in the world ultimately. So that's kind of the higher level of self-discipline. And rough and tumble play is kind of the foundation for that. Again, for all the reasons that I said, inhabiting your body, bodily regulation, emotional regulation, impulse control, attuned communication, even though it's just straight between the bodies. This is incredibly important developmental stuff for children, and it starts very early on, and it sets the template and it sets the patterns for things going forward. And ultimately, kids want to be engaged in games across their lifespan. And by games, I mean broadly. They want to be able to play with people. They want to be invited to the party. They want to be invited to the sleepover. They want to be able to be invited onto the team to play sports, into conversations, into chat rooms, into all kinds of different things. If we don't learn how to regulate and become self-disciplined and do this dance between me and we don't get invited back to games of all sorts in our lives. And then we feel more and more left out, more and more frustrated, more and more disconnected, more and more hateful towards the people who aren't inviting us in, even though it's kind of our inability to be self-disciplined that's causing it. So for all these reasons, rough and tumble play is incredibly important, and I hope that you'll keep it going if you're already doing it with your child, or bring it into your home more fully. I would recommend wrestling for at least 10 or 15 minutes every single day with your kids. Again, it's enjoyable, it's a really sweet thing, it's fun, and it's really good practice for them in life. I will link below to a much longer video on the subject, and you can click in if you want to hear much more detail about the research on rough and tumble play and how important it is. And also check us out at Fiercely Loving Fathers. There's plenty of great resources there, and I'm available for coaching calls if you want to check it out further and figure out how to bring this into your home, in your life. Until then, take care.